For centuries, the world has looked at globalization through a single, massive image. Endless walls of colorful steel containers stacked like Lego blocks onto towering megaships. We see brands like MSC and Maersk dominating the headlines, hauling our smartphones, sneakers, and TVs across the ocean. We've been conditioned to believe that the future is clean, digital, and perfectly boxed up. But that is a massive illusion. The entire green energy revolution, the electric vehicles rewriting our streets, the towering wind turbines capturing the oceans, the advanced batteries powering the next generation, does not start inside a clean, standardized container. It starts with raw, heavy, dusty dirt. To understand who truly controls the future, you have to look past the shiny consumer tech and stare directly into the cavernous, gritty belly of global bulk shipping. Right now, the world is racing toward a massive energy shift, and that shift runs entirely on rare earth elements like neodymium and praseodymium. These aren't just obscure names on the periodic table. They are the absolute critical ingredients required to manufacture highly specialized permanent magnets. Without them, electric vehicle motors simply do not spin efficiently. To put the sheer scale of this into perspective, a single electric vehicle requires between 2 to 5 kilograms of these rare earth permanent magnets just to turn its motor. When you multiply that by global EV adoption targets, the mathematics become staggering. Global demand for these specific magnets is projected to skyrocket from roughly 260,000 tons in 2024 to well over 600,000 tons a year by 2035. But here is the catch. These elements don't emerge from the Earth as pristine, shiny components. They come out as raw, heavy, unrefined ore. Moving millions of tons of this heavy rock across the planet is one of the most physically punishing and strategically sensitive logistical operations on Earth today. And the global supply chain for these materials operates on a massive economy of scale that heavily favors geographic consolidation. In 2024, China completely dominated the raw extraction phase, accounting for roughly 68 to 70% of global mine production. They pulled a staggering 270,000 metric tons of rare earths out of the ground, primarily from the massive Bayan Obo mining complex in Inner Mongolia. But digging it up is only step one. Step 2 is refining that raw ore into usable high-purity metals, a process that is highly specialized, incredibly expensive, and chemically brutal. Because China spent decades building the most efficient, large-scale refining infrastructure on the planet, a bizarre economic system emerged. It became drastically cheaper for other nations to dig the dirt out of their own ground and ship it directly to China for processing. This has created a massive, highly concentrated logistical funnel. You cannot simply throw 45,000 tons of raw, loose dirt into standard 20-foot shipping containers. It is completely inefficient, physically impractical due to strict highway and port weight limits, and far too expensive. A standard container maxes out at around 28 tons. To move the output of just a medium-sized mine using containers, you would need thousands of individual steel boxes, each requiring individual handling, locking, tracking, and unloading at every single transition point. Instead, to move the raw materials of our futuristic world, the industry relies on the true, unsung blue-collar workhorses of the maritime world, bulk carriers. When we talk about massive global trade, people often think of Cape-sized vessels, ships so massive, regularly exceeding 150,000 deadweight tons, that they cannot even fit through the locks of the Panama Canal and must sail all the way around Cape Horn. But while those giants move mountains of iron ore and coal, the specialized, highly valuable strategic mineral trade scales down to something far more versatile. The rare earth trade relies heavily on a class of vessels known as handysize and supermax bulk carriers. A supermax vessel is an absolute masterclass in functional maritime engineering, typically stretching around 150 to 200 meters long with a beam of about 32 meters. These vessels are capable of carrying 50,000 to 60,000 deadweight tons of cargo. But their real superpower isn't just their size, it's their independence. Unlike the massive container megaships that require multi-billion-dollar highly automated port infrastructure just to tie up and unload, supermax and handy-sized vessels carry their own gear. They are equipped with 4 massive onboard cranes capable of lifting up to 30 tons at a time. This single design feature gives them a massive defining logistical advantage. It means these ships don't need a high-tech terminal. They can pull into smaller secondary ports in Western Australia, navigate tight regional river docks in Southeast Asia, or service emerging resource corridors in South America. They can literally arrive at a bare concrete pier, load up tens of thousands of tons of critical minerals using their own deck equipment, and set sail without ever needing a single computerized shoreside crane. Inside the ship, the logistics become even wilder. Once the vessel ties up, loading rare earth concentrate into its 5 cavernous holds turns into a grueling, highly physical operation. This material does not come neatly packaged in boxes. It is often loaded via heavy industrial conveyor belts that extend out over the ship, pouring the raw, dusty material directly into the open belly of the hull. Alternatively, the processed dirt is packed into massive 1-ton industrial sacks known as Flexible Intermediate Bulk Containers, or FIBCs. The ship's onboard cranes swing out over the dock, pick up these heavy sacks, and lower them deep into the darkness of the holds. But it's what happens inside the ship that shows just how raw this industry really is. It is common practice to use the ship's cranes to lower a full-sized bulldozer directly into the cargo hold. The operator then spends hours driving around in the dark, dusty space, pushing the loose mineral concentrate toward the center of the hold so the cranes and mechanical grabs can load and unload efficiently. This is a dangerous, exacting process. The cargo must be perfectly trimmed and balanced. If 50,000 tons of heavy dirt shifts to one side while the ship is navigating a massive storm in the middle of the ocean, the entire vessel can capsize in minutes. This physical reality is where the economics of the green transition get incredibly fragile. Bulk carriers like the Supramax don't operate like container ships. Container ships run on fixed liner schedules, arriving at a specific port every Tuesday at 8 a.m. like a city bus. Bulk carriers operate on what is known as the tramp trade. They have no fixed routes and no set timetables. They roam the oceans, chasing cargo and chasing profit, going wherever the spot market dictates. A Supramax carrying American rare earth concentrate will depart a California port and spend roughly 20 to 25 days crossing the immense expanse of the Pacific Ocean. The economics of this voyage are brutal, operating on razor-thin, highly volatile margins. The cost to charter one of these ships swings wildly based on global macroeconomic factors, completely unrelated to green energy. Because these ships carry whatever pays the bills, rare earth miners are constantly competing for deck space with global agriculture, steel coils, and fossil fuels. If there is a sudden boom in the global grain trade, or if a harsh winter drives up the demand for coal, the daily charter rate of a Supramax ship can instantly spike from $10,000 a day to $30,000 or even $40,000 a day. Over a 20-day voyage, that logistical cost becomes a massive, unpredictable nightmare on a mining company's balance sheet. A few extra cents per ton in ocean freight costs can instantly wipe out the entire profit margin of a rare earth export operation. And that creates a fascinating economic paradox. The ultra-precise, high-tech components inside a modern electric vehicle, a symbol of a clean, futuristic world, begin their life moving thousands of miles across the ocean based entirely on the gritty, low-margin economics of bulk freight. Furthermore, the maritime routes carrying these materials have become strategically critical. The physical geography of the ocean dictates how fast the green transition can move. Ships carrying rare earth minerals don't just sail in a straight line. They must navigate a complex web of global maritime highways. And in a world of rising geopolitical fragmentation, strategic significance quickly translates to vulnerability. Bulk carriers transporting rare earth minerals often pass through key maritime choke points like the Strait of Malacca, the Bab el-Mandeb, or the highly contested waters of the South China Sea. These waterways are among the busiest, narrowest, and most sensitive stretches of water in the world. They act as the physical bottlenecks of the global economy. Any major disruption, whether it stems from regional instability, piracy, naval tensions, or localized blockades, would not just delay a few shipments of dirt. Because the global refining capacity is so heavily centralized, a major prolonged disruption in these specific shipping lanes would delay the global energy transition itself. The entire supply chain of the modern EV revolution is fundamentally at the mercy of bulk shipping economics and the stability of a few narrow channels of water. In recent years, major economies have woken up to this logistical vulnerability. We are seeing sweeping industrial plans to reduce reliance on single-country processing dominance. New rare earth mining projects are emerging across Africa, Australia, and the Americas, backed by massive investments in refining capacity outside of China. If these efforts succeed, the entire map of global bulk shipping will have to rewire itself. The long-established maritime corridors could dramatically transform. Minerals might sail to entirely new destinations, carving out new bulk routes across the Atlantic or the Indian Ocean. Secondary ports will suddenly find themselves competing for highly strategic cargo flows, requiring massive upgrades to their local infrastructure. Shipping companies rarely advertise their role in the rare earth trade. You won't see a rusty Supramax carrier featured in a glossy television commercial for a new electric SUV. Bulk carriers don't capture the public imagination like the colossal, brightly colored mega container ships that define modern consumerism. They are slow, unglamorous, and largely invisible to the average person. But without them, there is no EV revolution, no wind turbine expansion, and no advanced battery production. We wonder at the finished products that arrive cleanly in containers, assuming that the modern world operates on a frictionless digital supply chain. But the actual foundation of the global energy transition, the raw physical weight of our future, is moving quietly, efficiently, and in massive bulk right beneath our noses.